The global pharmaceutical market is about $1.5 trillion. And the United States alone accounts for about half of total research and development spending in pharmaceuticals. There is this term that they use in the United States, they call it big pharma, which has a lot of influence on see. That's because they spend a large amount of money to develop new drugs. All the time we keep reading about this cancer drug, this drug for this drug for that, developed in the United States. In fact, the highest number of clinical studies is carried out in the United States. The largest number of biotech firms is in the United States, supported by a very robust and innovative ecosystem. Now, the US pharma market is the world's largest in terms of revenue, drug development, production, and we were taking full advantage because our pharmaceutical products now are very, very good. And so the ingredients were going to the United States, and then some of them were using them generic drugs. The difference between a branded drug and a generic one is branded is you do all the research and development, you put in the money, you file a patent. When the patent expires, then we can produce the same thing under a different cover, and we call it generic. It's much, much cheaper. One fifth of final pharma products are made in the United States. About 50% of global prescription drug market is America. You know, all these new drugs keep coming out of the United States. Now, I've tried to understand why Trump has picked on pharma. Why didn't he pick on Sikh kebabs? Or why didn't he pick on shoes? Or why didn't he pick on something else? There's a method in his madness. From the late 19th century till probably the turn of the last century, the United States was a manufacturing superpower. The United States was everything. Whatever they even invented Coca-Cola and Pepsi-Cola and McDonald's and Burger King, which have become global brands. Now, when you look at what he's trying to do is, the United States used to be the leader in the electronics industry. Japan challenged. And I was posted in the United States in the mid-90s when American lawmakers would bring Japanese televisions and Japanese videos to Capitol Hill with huge sledgehammers and break them and say, we don't want to buy this rubbish. They did the same with Japanese cars. So what Trump is saying is all the areas where we traditionally had world leadership in manufacturing, which went away for whatever, went to China, went here, went there. We want to bring that back. Those are our traditional strengths. So he's picked on automobiles. He's now picked on pharma. He had picked on electronics. I'm going to post so much traffic, tariff on this, so much tariff on that. Come and manufacture in the United States. This is what he's telling Indian farmers. Set up manufacturing facilities in the United States. Whether this will work in 2025, because the world has changed beyond recognition. Other countries have come up, and they're national champions, as we call them. We have so many in India, pharmaceutical companies that make drugs for the world. Whereas in the United States, there is concern a bit about supply chain. I do remember when the virus broke out, the Chinese virus. I was in the United States, and we went to a store, my brother and I, to order a kitchen refrigerator. And he said, wait 6 months because the critical components that come from China are not available. I mean, the Americans are not used to waiting for 6 months. They don't even wait 6 minutes. You go, you buy, you pay, and it gets delivered. And so then everybody there started talking of supply chain constraints. And this is at the back of his mind. So what Trump is doing is a method to it. All the traditional areas of expertise of the United States, bring it back. Whether that will happen or not, what will the other fellows do? Second question is that you can manufacture everything you want in the United States. All the world's factories go to the United States. Very good. Even peanuts can be made in the United States, or all the world's mobile phone. And again, America had the leadership in this, can be made in the United States. All the world's books can be printed. Well, where's your market? You have 34 crore people. You'll ultimately have to sell somewhere. His idea is that everybody makes in the United States, and the US will export an important thing. And this kind of autarky, as we call it, self-sufficiency, doesn't work. You can't be totally dependent on yourselves and not import anything. Otherwise, why have global trade? Why have imports? Why have exports? Why trade at all if you're making everything yourself? Atmanirbharta doesn't mean that you become you become a non-importing country. It's just you're self-reliant in critical areas. That's what we are talking. From the late 19th century till really about 2000, it was the manufacturing superpower of the world. Anything made in America was considered, even a shirt made in America was considered superior to everything else. So what he is now doing is saying, bring back the areas of our traditional expertise, strength, and global dominance, if that's the right word. That's what President Trump is trying to do. How will it hurt us? Of course it will. We'll find alternative markets. We have to. My own feeling, though, is that if he starts making in the United States, and he feels that with the development of the robotics industry, you won't need human beings to do most of the manufacturing. It'll be done automatically, so costs will come down. That's his thought process, and then artificial intelligence, etc. My own feeling is that the American consumer will realize in the short term that it's going to be very, very expensive for them to buy everything made in America. It costs a lot at this point of time. Imports over decades, cheap Chinese imports have enabled the Americans to buy what they wanted and to save a lot of money. That was the whole idea. I mean, I remember when I was in the United States, posted there in the mid 80s, you'd buy a trouser for $10 and then you'd ask the fellow, how much does it cost to manufacture it? And he'd say $5 and $5 is my profit, or it cost me $3 and $7 is my profit. Along come the Chinese and say, you make a trouser for $3, I'll give it to you for half a cent. What are you talking about? So all the factories ran off to the United States. Now he's trying to bring them back. He's talking of reshoring. Come back. You run away from here. So America is afraid of losing its reputation and its position as a global manufacturing superpower. And what he's trying to do with pharma is exactly in line with that. Bring it back. Whether he'll succeed, I don't know. He's going to hurt the world. He's going to hurt us. We'll look for alternative markets. We'll find them. And last year, for example, we gave almost 2 million medical visas to foreign nationals, including from Europe and the United States, came for treatment in India. And now we've emerged as a medical treatment destination. And they know that they get the best medical treatment as the most affordable price. In English, there's an expression, mind your P's and Q's. We certainly do. We mind our prices, we mind our quality. And that's what we are doing. Those are very, very expensive. When I remember in the late 1970s, my father was suffering from lung cancer. We flew him to the United States for treatment. All of our politicians and their grandmothers would go off to England or the United States for medical treatment. Not anymore. It had the best medical system in the world, but that system is broken and it's just too expensive, like their education system. So, my own feeling is that the branded drug industry, because they spend a lot of money in doing research and development, they continue, as they call it, the nexus between insurance, pharma, and doctors. And they sort of prescribe drugs which are not required, and everybody makes money. The insurance companies make money, the manufacturer makes money, and the hospitals make money, and the doctors get paid, and so on. It's a bit of a racket in the United States. It's openly talked about. So it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt big pharma if they stop the import of the active pharmaceutical ingredients or the raw material or the inputs or the generic drugs, which can then be repackaged and sold as original drugs, although there's no difference in quality. My feeling is that it's going to hurt and they will put pressure because they're a very powerful lobby. Big Pharma is a very, very powerful lobby in the United States. And they would certainly like to see that their profit margins are not slashed, which might happen. The other issue about pharmaceutical products from the world, China is a competitor for API, active pharmaceutical ingredients, for genetic drugs also. Fortunately for us, China has such a terrible reputation of adulteration, of fraudulent activities, of selling rubbish in the name of gold, that people have become very wary of Chinese products, particularly in healthcare. That's a good thing for it. So if some Indian companies do decide to go and set up shop, some have already in the United States and manufacture, well, so be it. We are a resilient nation. We're a resilient economy. We're resilient people. We'll find a way around this, as we have done with all the other uh, stuff that he has imposed tariffs on us, and then some penalty because of what we are doing with Russia. Actually, the figures I was looking at was that in the last 2 weeks or so, our exports, not to the United States, but to other destinations, have actually gone up by 7%, which means that we are not, we might just say hi, oh Rabba, and start screaming and crying and say, hi, mar gaye. But the reality is that we'll deal with it when the time comes. So the Indian pharmaceutical industry, which is very, very strong and which is globally recognized, I think they are going to survive this crisis also. When Prime Minister has talked about over dependence on any one source, he was referring to China, all the critical rare earths and this, that, and the other. The Chinese, whenever they want, they stop it. When they decide to supply the world, they will. He said we shouldn't be over reliant. Semiconductors. Now, there's a massive semiconductor mission going on in the country. And I can tell you that within the next 12 to 24 months, we'll probably be close to self reliance in semiconductors. And these are the things that we are seeing. The idea is not to be too dependent. People call it a trade war. No, we haven't imposed any tariffs on the American. A war takes two to fight. No? Like there's an expression, it takes two to tango. Trump believes it takes one to tango, but that's not what the original expression is. You need two people. You have a war, you can't fight the war with yourself. So there's no trade war. He's imposed tariffs. Well, thank you very much. We are talking. We'll get a trade deal, and everything I hope will be back to normal again. Will it hurt India? Yes, of course. In the short term, yes. But then we again look for alternative markets. We will insulate ourselves. I hope we do, and I'm convinced that we will, against geopolitical arsonists like President Donald. You never know what the next guy will come and say. That now I'll stop importing anything in the United States. If we don't have shoes, well, we'll go around barefoot, but we're not going to buy from outside. So come and make shoes over here. So this kind of stuff, if somebody else comes up, well, this fellow has set a new trend. You like him, you hate him, you can't ignore him. He's setting a standard. He's carving a path that many people might be tempted to follow, particularly those who would like America to regain forever its number one status in the world. In fact, when the Soviet Union collapsed, I remember Francis Fukuyama, whose lectures I listened to, wrote this book about the end of history and the last man. He said, history is finished. Khatam, khalas. Up to America, dunya ka shahenshah for the rest of uh, for the next trillion years or however long the planet survives. That didn't happen. Then 9/11 came, etc. So I would say that India is concerned. Our people are there negotiating, discussing, but we are not in a state of panic. We are sufficiently uh, resilient, and we have the level of confidence in our own abilities to overcome any such challenge.